You may not even realise it, but your wheel's force feedback settings could be costing you valuable time in Assetto Corsa Competizione. Well, I speak from experience. I've spent months struggling to compete in this sim until one simple change completely transformed how the car feels, behaves and performs. Let me show you how to check if you're suffering from the same problem, and if you are, how you can fix it. Ever heard of clipping? Nope, me neither, until very recently when several viewers noticed I was suffering from it badly in my ACC videos. It's quite a common problem that affects feel, handling and performance, making the sim far more difficult than it needs to be. Now, if you've got plenty of hours and experience in Assetto Corsa Competizione, I'm probably not telling you anything that you don't already know, but for the more casual sim racers like me, well, I didn't know anything about it. I know from my video comments that lots of you are ACC newbies as well, trying the sim for the first time, so there's every chance you don't know about it either. So what is clipping? Well, basically it's when you max out the force feedback on your wheel. The sim is sending more force to your wheel than it's able to deal with. It was happening to me in pretty much every corner, and without me knowing it, my wheel was essentially raising the white flag and giving up. When your FFB maxes out like this, you'll lose the feel of any further forces in that corner. You're effectively entering an unwanted dead zone at a time when you need that force feedback the most. You'll have less feel for curbs, grip, snap oversteer. This in turn leads to poor handling, and it really hurts your corner speed as well as your exit speed. So how do you know if clipping is causing you problems? Well, it couldn't be more simple to check in Assetto Corsa Competizione. Just look to the bottom right of your HUD and see the FF bar flickering. On screen now, you'll see an example from my recent ACC race at Barcelona. Yeah, I can't believe I never knew what this bar was for either. But when the bar turns red, that's when your wheel is maxing out. A few flickers of red here and there is okay, but when it stays solid red, that's a problem. Look at my Barcelona example on screen now. See how long it's staying red for? That is a big problem. So why is it happening? Well, it very much depends on the capabilities of your wheel. An entry-level gear-driven wheel won't cope with as much force as a mid-range belt-driven wheel or a top-end direct drive wheel, for example. In my case, though, it's all my own fault. I like a firm feeling in my wheel, and I hate it if it feels too light when I'm steering. When I first installed ACC, I couldn't believe how light the wheel felt with the default settings compared to the other sims I'd driven. So without any research, I just went straight into settings and dialed everything up until I felt the resistance I wanted. Ever since then, I've been driving at a distinct disadvantage without even knowing it. So the big question is, how do you fix it? Well, the first and most important setting to change is gain. This is the direct control of force feedback strength you'll feel in your wheel. And this is what I unwisely cranked up when I first installed ACC without knowing the effect it would have on my cornering. Try reducing it by 10 to 15%. I had mine dialed all the way up to 100% when I checked last week. So this was the crucial change I made. I'm now running at 80%. For reference, I use a Thrustmaster TX wheelbase. Now, different wheels will require different gain settings to achieve the best results, so it's worth tinkering and testing. But my second problem after lowering the gain was that lighter feeling that I was trying to get rid of in the first place. Well, there are a few more settings that you can tweak if, like me, you prefer to feel a bit more resistance when turning. Dynamic dampening is one of them. It helps the wheel feel heavier at low speeds but lighter at high speeds. If this is set too high, your wheel might feel too light. So try making some small adjustments and you'll soon find that sweet spot. Minimum force is another. This one is particularly helpful if you've got an entry-level wheel. It helps you raise the level of those minimum forces so they're easier to feel, particularly on lower performance steering wheels. If you're still struggling to get that feeling the way you want it, you could even go into your car setup and play around with caster on the front tyres. This can also help give you a heavier feel when steering, but do remember that it may also affect the car's handling in other ways. For me, I've not touched caster or made any other car setup changes. The force feedback settings alone have worked for me. Of course, the main thing to remember when making any alterations to settings or setup is to make small changes at a time. Small changes are much easier to revert if you don't like the results. So that's a summary of the changes I made to my force feedback settings in Assetto Corsa Competizione. I thought I'd share them because I'm sure there are many more drivers out there like me who have no idea about clipping. I owe a huge thank you to you guys who alerted me to this problem, in particular Chris Hickey, Matt Kingston Lee and Joe at Thomas Race Engineering. I really do appreciate it. So the next time you're in ACC, take a glance to the bottom right of your screen while cornering and see if clipping is causing you a problem too. And if you want to see the effect that these changes have had on my performance, check out this race on screen now. It was my first Assetto Corsa Competizione race with the new settings, and it was by far my best result.